guys, week 6, welcome back. I hope you're keeping warm. If you don't, make sure you head on to the rock shop and get your Northlands College Bunny Hugger sweater to stay warm. The importance of studying. Now don't get me wrong, I know we're all feeling a little bit like this right now. That tends to be what happens at this time of year. Okay, but we've got some really quick tips to make sure that we can make you not just feel like this, but feel calm and ready. One of the tips that I got, honestly, from a very old professor at university for myself, was to think of tests and exams as an opportunity to show your professor what you got. And maybe it was just the teacher knew me well enough to know that that was a good way to motivate me, was kind of use my competitive edge. But it's what I've learned about studying, because I'll tell you, and to be completely honest with you guys, tests scare the crap out of me. I'm not an anxious person. I tend to grab the bull by the horns, but exams like totally mess with me. They mess with my head. I have this, that little person in your head that tells you good or bad things. They go completely negative for me. But what I have found out with tests is that if I'm prepared, I'm okay. And I think that that's the thing. The anxiety comes from our lack of knowledge or our lack of preparedness, or honestly, between me and you, our lack of confidence. So if we don't feel confident, like we've put our best foot forward, that's usually when it shows. So preparation. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. If you don't put the work in, things aren't going to go well, okay? Now, preparation is more than just about sitting down and rereading your notes over and over and over again. Is what I have found is preparation is about making connections to the work. It's about making life connections, connecting the stuff you're talking about in class to real life examples in your life, in your community, in our province, in Canada, in the world. What is going on where we can make connections? In biology, we can make connections as mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers about disease and blood flow. We've got hands and arms and we can see how things work. Chemistry, it's the same. But so Shakespeare and Monet and different things when Marcus is reading things like In Search of April Raintree, or Alicia's talking about life transitions, or Sharon's talking about psychology. It's about making connections to what we're wanting to do. Okay, Vince and his rocks at the mine school. We need to really make sure that the biggest thing is a strategy for us to study, that we can connect with that material, because you're going to memorize it better that way. So how can we do that? It depends on you, just like note-taking. Do flashcards work for you? Do you want to use the Cole's note methods of rewriting your notes or putting things together? Do you need mind maps for theories? Do you want to use different tricks to go, okay, here's how I'm remembering those 5 theories I need? So there's lots of different ways. For you as a student, explore, try new things, okay? You're not going to just write one exam. You're going to be writing a lot of exams and a lot of classes. So try different things to see what suits you. Studying tips. There's lots of them. And again, you're going to have to find out what's best for you. My first key to anybody: when are you at your best? Are you a morning person? Are you a night hawk? If you're a night hawk, are you a parent? Do you put the kids to bed? Do you study with the kids? What has worked for you and what hasn't, okay? And don't get me wrong, I've got 2 kids. I've been going to school the last 5 years. Don't use your life as an excuse. You need to find some time. Do you have a quiet place? If you don't, make one. I was a poor trailer kid for a long time, and I made a small corner with 6 kids, my private corner, to make sure that I could study for university, okay? So find a way and find a time. And if you need help with this, again, lean on your instructor aide, lean on your student advisor, and ask for help. Test anxiety, again, is this fear of what? A fear of tests. It doesn't necessarily make rational sense, right? So we view tests, and this is me too, okay? We view a test as a threatening event. That's number 1. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I have a test. I'm not ready. I don't know. And we build up this anxiety in ourselves. Anxiety then lowers our performance because we already in our head have said to ourselves, you know what? I suck at tests. That's going to be my excuse when I get a crappy grade. I've already resigned that I'm not going to do well without challenging myself. I'm just going to take a back seat and let my anxiety win. Okay? So then I get a poor outcome. It then confirms that I suck at tests and I can't fix it, and that tests are actually a threatening event. And it takes me all the way back up to my feelings now are much stronger that the test is actually the problem. The test isn't the problem. And I know we can all think this is a silly thing. We're the problem. And it's all about preparation. It's all about the work that we put in. That anxiety can be there, but what are some things that I can do to beat it? So number one, like I said, my very old professor, I started looking at tests. I'm a very competitive person, okay? I started looking at tests as an opportunity to show my stuff, just like I would on the volleyball court, okay? I want to show them my best stuff. It's like a scout was there. Okay, so now there's a headhunter for the U of S who's going to be reading my test. I want to make sure that everything that I know, I've put down on that piece of paper. So I started trying to challenge myself in different ways. And I've got some tips for you too. So how to avoid test anxiety. Okay, I still sweat like crazy and have that little guy in my head say mean things to me before I'm going to write a test, like, you know, you're gonna fail, you suck, those things that sometimes our conscience or our little Jiminy Cricket tell us. But here's some things that I do, okay, and I'm hoping that they'll help you too. The minute I sit down before I'm going to write my test, okay, how many of you out there cram for the last 20 minutes of the things you don't know? Okay? Yeah, lots of you, just like me. So in that realm is what you want to do is what I'd call the brain dump, okay? So if I know some things and I'm looking and there's 3 theories that I know I don't have a good grasp on, and it's a date and it's a person and it's a theory, the first thing I do before I even write my name on my exam, I turn my exam over and I just write down all the things I don't want to forget. All the things that I'm not really sure about, I just read for the last 20 minutes, and I don't want to forget those things. So I quickly write them down on the back of the page, turn my exam over, and then I remember to put my name on my exam, okay? Because an exam with no name is, you know, a grade for nobody. So make sure we put our name on our exam. Number 2 for me, to build my confidence, because I've got that little guy saying not so nice things about Brandi, I read through my exam. I give myself 5 minutes. I read through my exam and I start with where I'm most confident. Because I'm nervous and I feel like I'm tight and I'm scared and I don't know if I'm gonna do well. But if I go, hey, I know the answer to that question, I start kind of loosening up a little bit. And then I see that the 9th question helps me answer the 2nd question. And I've read through, and from there, I know exactly what my expectations are. Number 2, I check each section, and I check how much time I have. A lot of you out there start writing your exams from question 1 to question 25, and in most cases, questions 20 to 25 or short answer or essay worth 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 marks. And when we run out of time, the bulk of the marks remain empty. We don't want to have that, right? So from that point, make sure your time, you're scheduling enough time, you're managing your time in a good place when you're writing that exam, okay? Where does the majority of your time need to be spent, okay? Number two, before I go into types of exam questions, don't leave anything blank. Okay, take a gander, take a guess. Try and use something. Look through your exam to see if you can make some links from other questions or other answers that you've provided, okay? Now, looking at the different types of questions that can be on an exam. You've got multiple choice, your true and false. Okay, in those types of questions, never ever leave them blank, right? You have a 50% chance in true and false and at least a 25% chance of getting it right. Unless you have one of those instructors who have A, B, C, D, and then A and E and B and C and all of the above and none of the above, because then that gets a little bit crazy. True and false, it's about what kind of statements are they making. Are they making generalized statements where it's like, every student at Northlands College is beautiful? True or false? Okay, that's maybe a true question. But it's all of those things. When they say everyone or no one, when they make these absolute statements tend to be false, unless they're blatant points like the one that I just made. If you have things where, in most cases, students at Northlands College are over the age of 25. That would most likely be true because they're not saying all or none. So really pay attention to language. One of the things that I like to do is I have a pencil and a pen and sometimes a highlighter when I write an exam. So I really make sure that I'm reading questions properly and appropriately. You have those big, which is not the right one, instead of skipping over that word. Making sure we understand what the question asks. Matching, okay, same thing, process of elimination. Make sure you just take your time and you're thoughtful when you go through. Short answers and essays. The biggest thing for me when I'm looking and trying to help students with this piece is how much is it worth? Okay, if you're supposed to write an essay or a long answer worth 10 marks, you could write the two most brilliant, best 2 sentences in all of the world, and I couldn't give you a 10 out of 10. Okay, so think about that. Okay, if I need to get 10 marks from this question, you need to at least have a good argument and a couple pieces of evidence or facts to back up that argument for me to give you, say, 3 or a 2 and a 2 and a 3, right? To try to get those 10 marks in there. Same thing if you see a short answer worth 5. Okay, you need to be able to give examples and evidence and facts to back up that stuff. If you just keep writing and you don't have any rhyme to that, you're not going to score well. So really pay attention about what each is out of, okay? And that's also going to help you manage your time because you're going to know how much time you need to spend on those types of questions, okay? So looking at writing those exams, don't worry about anybody around you, okay? How many of you have sat down and then in the first half an hour you're still on the first page or just the second page and somebody has got up and walked out? And then you look at the clock and then you look down and then you're like, oh my God, they're done already? Oh my God, why am I not done? And then somebody else gets up. Try to really put yourself in your own world and worry just about what you know, and don't worry about the outside factors of your classroom. Okay? Really just work on trying to make sure that you can present yourself in the best way. You know what? Sometimes I even write, great job, Brandi, or go get 'em. Just a positive affirmation on the top of my page to give me a little confidence boost when I need it. Something else I sometimes do is I'll write in the margin of my exams if I'm really unsure about a question and say, I'm not sure if we covered this. I don't recall this information, or I had no idea about this question. And then at least, hoping your professor or your instructor will follow up with you to say, hey, maybe you missed that lecture, right? Remember that you are responsible for everything that you miss. That is your responsibility. So when you're putting stuff together and you're preparing to write your exams, if you're rewriting your notes, one of the things I've learned a great deal of is don't study the things that we already know. You got to make yourself uncomfortable. Work on the things that you don't know. Work on the things you're unsure of. That's where we got to ask for help. Okay? And that's the thing. Common exam errors. Okay? Not following the question. For some of you students out there in, say, English, just so you know, I believe there were 2 students last year who the question says, please do 1 essay in this section. And they had to do 2 essays total. And they did 2 essays in that section. Their first essay scored well. Their second essay got a 0. Even though they needed to write 2 essays, 1 needed to be from section A and 1 needed to be from section B. They wrote an essay in section B, but because they wrote 2 essays out of section A, they didn't follow the directions. They took a 0 on that second question. Okay? Read the directions. Understand what that professor or instructor is asking of you. Make sure you know the rules. Make sure you know how much time you have. Make sure you know the parameters of your exam before going in, okay? Don't leave things blank. A blank is an automatic 0, okay? If you take a stab at it, if you take a guess at it, there's potential for some marks there. Don't sell yourself short, okay? Study time, which means actually study, okay? And studying is very different than cramming, okay? We all do a little cramming, okay? At the very end or right before your exam, but take time to study. Remember in that note-taking episode, we talked about, you know, your brain only recalls 20% after a week and 5% after 4 weeks? That means read your notes regularly. Keep that stuff top of mind. Take an hour at the beginning of your week, every week, and spend 20 minutes reading over your notes for your class. Be on top of your game, guys, because that's going to help you be successful here. Okay? Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.